I'm going to give it a few more minutes. Let me send out an email. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If more people join, great. One person already sent me their recommendations beforehand, so I'm going to count that as their attendance. So let's start with a roll call. If you're here, just unmute yourself and say here. Nancy,
Here.
Matthew,
Here.
Howard. Gotcha. Connor.
Here.
Helen.
Here.
James sent me his budget rec. Kim, I don't see her. Tania, not here. Emily, also not here. I see Charisse, but I don't see Hunter. Okay, so Hunter might join late, but that's fine. So Charisse is a planner with the TJPDC, Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. She's kind of like my counterpart over at the TJPDC. Charisse, did you want to do like a quick intro? She manages the home funds for the entire region.
Yeah, I can do a quick intro. So I, as Erin said, I am pretty much her counterpart. Erin does the city CDBG and home allocations. I take those home allocations from the city and from the rest of the region and administer those funds. I've been working for the TJPDC since September 2015. And I'm originally from Chicago. And other programs that I work on, mainly the federal housing programs, but I do a little bit of environmental and planning. So just a little quick bio about me.
So Sharice is going to sit and examine our process today. We're looking at changing up the task force structure a little bit and possibly adding in Sharice because she does manage the home funds for the region as well as the city. So yeah, she's going to look in with our review process and kind of sit in as a fly on a wall. Yeah, we're going to go into the scoring now. So a quick little history. I met with 12 potential applicants during the pre-application stage. Some were interested in what CDBG is in general. Some were, 6 of them ended up applying. The others said that CDBG would be great to apply for next year. So I kept them on the list for next year's round. And then we got our 6 that we're working with now. Just one thing to keep in mind for the public services category, we have that 15% cap, so we can't exceed that 65,000 and some. For housing and econ, that one has more flexibility, so we can play around with those funds. The task force today has the option to fully fund, not fund, or partially fund programs. Just keep in mind when you're partially funding a program, that does affect the program's goal to help beneficiaries. One common question I got from a couple of you guys while you were reviewing the applications was for the applicants who have 2021 funds right now. So that's LEAP, CIC, and FAR. They were eligible to apply this round. Their funds, the 2021 funds, do have to be spent by June 30th, 2022. If they can't meet that contract obligation, the city has the right to take back those funds. And we can also put a hold or a stop on any 2022 funds should the task force decide to give them new funds. So let's say you guys had $10 for 2021 CDBG funds. You guys have until June 30, 2022 to spend those. If you can't spend those within your contract obligation year, the city will take back your $10 and will also put a hold on your 2022 award because you didn't meet your HUD obligation. Does that make sense? Seeing no hands, I'm guessing it did. So we are going to start with the application. So let me see if I can share my screen. Share. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to start with the 2 easier categories, the econ and the housing, because we don't have that funding cap. You guys did receive this already beforehand, so if you want to pull it up on your end or just want to look on mine, totally okay. So let's start with the econ. We have 2 applications, the LEAP Workforce and the Community Investment Collaborative, or CIC. Overall, the scores were pretty consistent. We can look at the LEAP Workforce one first. So you guys have the option to either partially fund, fully fund, or not fund one or the other. There is enough funding for both applications. I have worked with both organizations this past year for 2021. Both were fine. And actually LEAP Workforce just invoiced me, so they're on track with their spending obligations. Same with CIC. CIC expanded their scope of work to spend faster, to expand their scope of work to include more beneficiaries to help with their spending. So I'm not concerned about them not meeting obligations for their timeliness. They each year do meet their HUD auditing requirements, so no concerns with their paperwork that they submit each year. Any questions on the organizational capacity side of things?
Aaron, I had a question just to clarify. How much is the total pot of money for that we can distribute for all these programs?
244,000.
144.
Yes.
Okay, I was getting a little confused between the 244 and the 150,000. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's just the public service category that we have that 65, and so cap
Right.
that we have to stick within. But for econ and housing, we have more leeway. Nancy.
I'm for fully funding both of those econ, especially with LEAP, because so often with people I talk with, trying to find housing and trying to find jobs when they re-enter the community is one of the biggest barriers for being successful. And I think that, them wanting to use funds to help LEAP help get people reacclimated, resituated so they can go down that path, because I've seen people do that, but it takes a lot of everybody's energy. So I like that program, and the CIC pretty much for the same thing. I know they're a lot larger scope, but I think they both had really good applications, and would like to fully fund both of them in this category. Thank you.
That sounds good to me. And I actually am wondering would CIC be able to take on more funding than what they requested?
I can double check their application, or if you guys have their application,
Can't remember off
it's
the
the
top of
last.
my head.
Let me stop sharing real quick. We did have Hunter join us. Hunter works with the Vibrant Communities Fund. Hunter, do you want to say hi real quick while I pull up the CIC application?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Hunter Smith. I work for the Human Services Department. I'm just here kind of observing and checking out process. I work with the Vibrant Communities Fund process in town. So I'm just here figuring out how the CBDG process works. So thanks for having me.
Yep. So CIC was okay to receive extra funding.
I guess
Hunter,
we
okay,
have
you-
244,000, not that we need to try and spend all of it, but if it's between housing and econ, the total requested is like about 112,000, and then we can only do 65,000 in public service. That puts us at like 175,000, somewhere in that vicinity.
Right.
And I guess in my mind, LEAP is asking for a certain number of positions. I don't think it makes sense for the econ category to try and fund more positions for them, because they might not actually have, but I guess I'm wondering if CIC would be worth funding maybe at a higher amount, or maybe 50,000. But I do agree with Nancy's idea of fully funding both of them. I'm just wondering if we should go beyond that.
Happens to undesignated money at the end of this process.
What happens to the undesignated funds?
Yeah, let's say we don't add on to anybody and there's $75,000 left. You have to do another round of applications. What are the other possibilities?
So normally a couple of things can happen. Normally we put it into the Ridge Streets Priority Neighborhood Fund category. And right now that project is allocated towards the 6th Street Southeast Sidewalk project, which will probably end up using that extra funding. We can put it out for another RFP. That's another option. Another option would be seeing if any other city projects that are in those priority neighborhoods could use the CDBG funding. So there are several options that city could explore. Nancy.
Why don't we go through this first and just see how we're feeling about the budgeted amounts and then come back to that discussion?
That's a good idea. Should we go to housing next? There's only one application. No concerns on the staffing side of things. They actually invoiced me for all of their funds last week, so they're pretty much all spent out and caught up with their 2021 account, which makes them eligible for their 2022 funds. They're great on invoicing and all the HUD auditing paperwork side of things, so no concerns on my end. And scores look like they're pretty consistent as well.
I like this proposal. I thought it was really interesting. They basically were saying there's this issue of poor quality roofs is creating this pinch point where people aren't able to access not just like at least 2 or 3 different types of low income housing rehabilitation and solar panels and whatnot. So
Yeah, it's different from what they normally apply for each year, which was fun to read.
yeah, the application had a little bit of a like, we're kind of in uncharted waters territory, but we think we need to go there feel to it, which is cool.
Yeah,
Makes me a little less, I mean, I'm inclined to fund it. I'm less inclined to fund at a potentially higher amount though, since they're doing something novel. It seems like exciting for sure.
Nancy.
Matthew took a lot of the words right out of my mouth. I felt like it was a really good niche product or program that is addressing the need for people to stay, in their house and not have to feel like they have to, sell because of a roof issue or whatever. And it does go a little bit beyond their normal roofing, but it has that secondary piece of being able to offer solar panels for, homeowners to kind of mitigate the costs of, electricity in their homes, which I thought was a really good tie-in.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because Sharice, all these solar roofing activities actually qualify as exempt, so it flies by through the HUD environmental step, which makes it an even easier activity on staff side, which is what we like to see.
I don't have too much to add, but I just think it's a great add-on that it's not just focused on the the money to be saved by the homeowner in the city, but also the future environmental benefits.
Yeah, I'd like to fully fund it at the request that they asked, which is the 40,250. Yeah.
Is there a second?
I support that.
Wait, I'm looking at, sorry.
So they amended their asking.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with that now.
Public services. So if we want to, why don't we start with the higher ranking one, literacy volunteers. They were actually the first applicant this year to spend out all their funds. And they finished their program, I think February this year. This one's a pretty good program. They never have any auditing issues or invoicing issues. Always finish their program early. Scores are pretty consistent across the board. And they always, when I do my annual monitoring check, they usually show me like the test booklet scores of each student, which is pretty cool. So it's very interesting to see how each student progresses throughout the program, which is like pretty neat to actually see how all the students are benefiting from the CDBG program. If we want to go to the second ranking applicant, FAR, they, I will say, under their new leadership has come a long way, or have come a long way. Their invoicing and their backup documentation have definitely improved since they've last had CDBG back in like 2015 or 2011. I don't quote me on that, but they're a lot better with invoicing, a lot better with documentation. I haven't done an annual audit yet because they're still conducting their program, but they've definitely cleaned up their act, so to speak, with how they conduct and carry out a federal program. It does look like scores were okay. I know that we have two outliers, Matthew and Howard. There was one high, one low, but other than that, the scores were okay across the board. And then for Pacham, these guys normally apply for overflow services for homelessness shelter during the winter. They haven't received CDBG since for a while. They usually apply each year, but they don't get it during the whole review process. There wasn't any auditing concerns since their last CDBG receipt or award year. They do work with TJAC and Haven, but aside from that, I don't have any concerns with them receiving funds. There are a couple ways you can go about this. Since Literacy Volunteers was the higher ranking one, you can fully fund them and then partially divide the leftovers between Pacham and FAR. You can partially fund all three. You can fully fund one and then divide out the others. Or you could fully fund FAR, Literacy Volunteers, and then split the difference between, split the overage between FAR and Literacy Volunteers since they asked for extra on the two end. So you could play around with how you want to score it. But those are some options.
I think we should fully fund Literacy Volunteers because their application was the best one and scored so well, and then sort it out from there.
Let me go back to the scores here.
That's my suggestion. Definitely open to other people's ideas.
I would agree with that.
I would agree. It was definitely the most thorough application.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with fully funding Literacy Volunteers, and I'd like to fully fund FAR because Aaron has said, and I have seen it myself, just the work that's been done over the last, since they've gotten a new executive director, the the depth of the programming that they're doing, and the fact that I've seen so many of their interns now speaking up at, advocating for and speaking up for, their community in a way that I might now, I myself haven't seen now, I might be an outlier on that, but I just think that, that what they're trying to do to motivate the people out is going to be very important in the years to come, and this year, next year, the next few years, as we grapple with what does Charlottesville look like. And they have an extremely important piece to play in that. And the way they described what was going on, I thought that giving them this funding, since it has been so long, would really go a long way to bringing that part of our community even more into play and into the table. Now the reason, I was the lowest score on Pachon, and I'll tell you why. All the money that has come out of ARPA and CHIRP and whatever have gone to emergency shelter operations, which has been extremely important. In fact, tonight, they're getting a resolution for CHIRP funds of 200,000, and then in the last budget session they're recommended about a little over 42,000 for vibrant community funds, which are all going to operations. Now, this is for a particular position, which sounds like a 1-year salary amount. And how are they going to pay for that going forward? I really didn't see anything, in their communication, in their plan, and really how they were going to do what the goal was to have a referral specialist connect with, and it wasn't quite fleshed out on all of that, which is why, I didn't score them as, wanting to have, having funding at this point, or a little bit. And if they don't get their full funding for their full job, which this will pay for the part of the year that's left, then, how, will that be a hard thing for them to overcome? Well, anyway, that's how I wanted to explain, my scoring.
Yeah, you're not the first to bring that up. That's been a concern for not this application, but which one was it? The TJAC Coordinated Entry Services position or application from not last year's, but several years in a row. Members on the task force would constantly bring it up. How is this staff position sustainable? So you're not the only one who thinks that way about funding staff positions. And it's a valid point. CDBG isn't here just to fund program staff positions.
And I juxtaposed it against the LEAP workforce, because that's not an ongoing, position for that. They're going to train these people, and then they're going to be either with them or at some point, maybe moving on into greater things with that knowledge. But this seems to be like a position that would be necessitated because Premier Circle is an ongoing project. It's not just a thermal seasonal shelter, it'll transition into something else in a few years. So it sounds like this is an ongoing need.
And in LEAP's application, it did sound like they would be working closely with CRHA Section 3 program, which is a HUD objective. So
I would second the idea of fully funding FAR and LVCA.
I'm good with that as well.
Sounds good to me.
okay, so that leaves us with, let me move you guys over here. So do you guys want to split the difference between literacy volunteers and FAR? that 2,525 between the two. Because it wouldn't make sense to just fund Pacham at 5,000.
As long as they feel like they each have the capacity to spend that money, which I would imagine they would, given how small it is.
Yeah. You do also, we don't have to meet that 15% cap. It's just HUD sets that cap as a don't exceed this. You do have that option to put that 5,000 into one of these buckets, but it's up to you guys.
Does look like they both on their application like checked the box saying that they would be open to receiving additional funding. So
Yeah.
I'd be comfortable with splitting it between the two of them.
That sounds
Good
good.
with that
to
as
me.
well.
I support that.
So 2525.35.
Aaron, is there a reason AHIP didn't apply for this?
I don't know. They did not meet with me for some reason. They do have 2021 home funds that they are trying to spend out, but I didn't get a meeting with them. If you hear why, let me know.
So I guess there's basically like 112,000 additional dollars that aren't accounted for yet. 109,000 now.
Yes.
Aaron, what do you recommend be done with that extra money? In terms of trying to apply to some of these projects versus setting it aside for another round of RFP versus putting it into the Ridge Street Fund?
That is a lot of money to throw onto these organizations. I don't want to put that kind of work on them, especially since it is an 8-month timeline. I would say we either put it into the Ridge Street Fund, or we see if we can put it out for another RFP later on down the road. Or we see if any city funds or city projects within the city priority neighborhoods can use funding right now to use and can use this funding that are like shovel ready to go.
If we agreed on the latter option, would we have like further input on those projects, or would we be essentially saying like,
Yes.
we're good to, okay.
Yeah, I could bring all those ideas back to you for your approval or discussion on. But right now for the action plan, I just need to put in as a line item saying something like part of it will go to, actually no, Ridge Street already has a line item saying this amount is going into the budget. The rest can be put in there as planning. I could do that. Actually, Sharice, yeah, can we do that? We could put it in there as planning.
Say it again, Aaron. Sorry.
We
You
can
want-
put it in as a line item on the
Yeah.
action plan as planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that and then bring it back to you guys later on when we flesh out some projects. I can talk to some city departments to see if there is anything being worked in the city CDBG priority neighborhoods. If not, then we can put it out for another RFP.
How much time do you need, Aaron, to do that, do you think?
I'll send out the email tomorrow to the city departments
Oh.
and give them 30 days to reply to me. If they do not reply, then we could put it out for an RFP. Just for timing wise right now, I needed this budget to go for the action plan like now. But yeah, I can go from there.
That sounds good to me. I mean, if there are some shovel-ready projects that the city has that this money could be used towards, that'd be great. And if it turns out that there is some extra money or all this money left over, maybe approaching some of these partners and others that have applied in the past and asking if they would reapply for another round.
Support that.
And that would just be for the home and econ
Yes.
areas. Yeah.
I agree. I
Sounds
think
like-
it's a good
Yeah, I
idea.
agree. Mhm.
Alrighty, so. Do we want to keep the budget as, yeah, we're keeping the budget as is. I am going to work down through the roster. If you approve it, approve the budget, say yes. If you don't, say no. Nancy,
Yes,
Matthew,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes,
Connor,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes,
James, actually, he wanted CIC, yep. Leap, yep. Leap, yep. And FAR, yep, all good. Connor, I saw you, and then I think that's everyone. So we are set on this. Sharice and Hunter, any questions for the task force?
No, I'm just, sitting here learning and, I, am the home counterpart and this is giving me ideas on introducing possibly to the rural counties, because they do their process differently than you guys do. And I actually think this might be a better process of, having actual people who vote on shovel-ready projects, because the rural localities don't do that. So I'm absorbing.
I wouldn't say that this process became efficient like this overnight, to say the least.
No, for me, it's just very different than the vibrant community process. And so it's been interesting to listen to the deliberations and the discussion over the application, also the funding amounts. That's something that doesn't happen in other the way we do it. We don't discuss anything about the funding amounts. We just look at the application and what they're asking for, and then what the importance level is to the community. And then the determinations on budget is done at a separate spot. So it's interesting to watch and learn how you guys do it all at one time.
The first time or two, I've been on this, I think 3 years now. The first time or two, it was helpful to hear from some people who had done it before, including Howard, to hear, I think the perspective we've taken is not that the scoring metrics are perfect or anything, but like that sort of becomes the first determining factor about how to prioritize things. Because I think if we get into like a discussion of, what does our community need more and things like that, that's a very interesting discussion. And obviously we did a little bit of that today, but everyone's going to have a favorite. It gets very like kind of philosophical or personal. And I think, and that there's definitely a time and place for that, but it can also, you'll never come to a decision sometimes, whereas letting the scoring kind of guide, again, not because the metrics are perfect or anything like that, but I think it's been helpful to kind of facilitate the conversations to make it clear, like when someone has a really good application, they get priority.
I did have a question. So this budget that you guys are working on now, or these projects and activities, when do you expect them to start? Like how far in advance is this? Is it for July 1st of 2023?
This
Is it
is
that
for
far?
our action plan that we're working on right now, the July 1st.
So yeah, July 1st, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So yeah, the rural counties don't, they don't do that. So no, seems a bit more sufficient.
Any other questions or comments from you guys before I open it up to public comment? Nope. Okay, so I will open it up to public comments. Any questions from the public? We do have one. Joy Johnson, let me allow, I think I can do it this way. You're on the public, Joy Johnson. I think you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is False Advertising. My name
There
is
you go.
Chelsea Edwards, and I'm the Executive Director of the Charlottesville Public Housing Association of Residents. I'm excited to share my appreciation for the dialogue this afternoon, and we're delighted with the direction you've chosen with the applications. I appreciate the kind words and endorsement, Nancy. And to Aaron, I thank you for your work within the city of Charlottesville. You know, at FAR, we're ensuring that residents have a voice and a say by giving them the tools to participate in this complicated nature of redevelopment. And I know for the workshop referenced in the grant application, the content is created in collaboration with our partners at the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, CRHA, and is oftentimes attended by city staffers. So thank you so much for the dialogue, and I'm really looking forward to continue the work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Joy Johnson again.
Okay, good evening. I'm sorry.
There we
Shelby,
go.
I'm Joy Johnson. Good evening. My name is Joy Johnson, and I am a public housing resident. I guess my question for this committee is, do you all get orientation about what CBDG dollars are supposed to be used for? Because it seems like a lot of the questions that you are asking, not the time frame, but what it could be used for, would be much helpful if you could understand better what CBDG dollars are to be used for. This is the way I was learned about CBDG dollars, is that it's for poor people, it's for poor neighborhood. It's the one grant and the one money that is supposed to help to revitalize neighborhoods that cannot get capital funds or any other funds to revitalize their neighborhood. So when I hear a member says, well, if they have a good application, then they get a high priority. Shouldn't be that way. It should be that the committee, the task force should also be out in the community hearing from residents, or is looking at things that they also see that should be and could be revitalized. I just wanted to emphasize that because I've been having, Aaron know this is one of my pet peeves, but some of the neighborhoods, even some of the neighborhoods right now that were low income when they redesigned the areas are now really much higher income. So I just want to ask that the commission make sure that they're reaching out to the community and they're going into communities and they're using their eyes to see what are some of the projects and where it would come under. Would it come under a city program or would it come under a nonprofit program? Again, I know it's a daunting task. I had to learn, by the shortcut how I should be able to do it. But I had someone who was able to counsel me, walk with me and show me and the regulations about what community block grant money should be used for. So just wanted to say that. Thanks for everything that you all do. I know it's a tough thing to be able to evaluate which program you want to serve. But again, I think if you're in the community, if you're working with the local community or the communities who need to be revitalized, you can see and you can hear what are some of the things that needs to be done. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I'm sorry that you all had this meeting right up against this other meeting with the CAF. So I'm trying to do 2 meetings at one time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. All right, we finished before council, so that is great. That's all I have for you guys tonight. I will let you know about the city department's shovel-ready housing and econ project. If we can't find anything, then I will regroup with you guys. But have a good night. Thank you guys so much. And I will keep up with you guys. Bye.